We're Amy and Christina, two moms who learned the hard way that there's a lot we wish we knew about pregnancy and parenting.
So now we're asking experts all the questions, sharing what we've learned and what we're still figuring out, and keeping it real along the way. Welcome to What I Wish I Knew.
Relationships are hard. Then let's add in a kid, or two or three, with a healthy dose of sleep deprivation and a to-do list that never seems to end. Then let's sprinkle in some work stress for good measure and top it all off with hearing, Mom, Mommy, 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 Mom, Dad, Daddy, Daddy, about 14,000 times per day. It's the perfect recipe for a happy relationship, right?
As any parent knows, children change the fabric of your family, including your relationship with your partner. We spoke with Jocelyn and Aaron Freeman, authors and relationship coaches extraordinaire, about intentional ways to improve communication, resolve conflict, and stay more connected with your significant other. Let's listen and learn, people. Welcome to What I Wish I Knew. We are so happy to have the Freemans here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Hello.
In casual wear, just because we're a little more casual than probably people are used to seeing us in interviews. This is because we are doing a day date going trail biking. Aaron actually realized a week or so ago, he was like, we need a hobby. He's like, we've been working so much. We run our business. We have a daughter. Obviously, we love family time with her, but we haven't had like an adult hobby in years. And we used to do a ton of adventurous things together before having our daughter, like trail biking, hiking. We would obviously go on tons of road trips. And so when he brought that up, I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. We do need a hobby. And so we got trail bikes and we're going trail biking after this. So that is why we are very casual today.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's true, actually. Once you have kids, the hobby thing kind of falls to the wayside of like, oh, sometimes I read when I have 10 minutes before bed if I'm not too tired. Like,
For sure.
There are, when we were talking about being on this podcast, there's a lot of things I wish I knew. In particular, in becoming parents, like how our marriage would really change. Because you'll hear that, oh, you just take your child into your own life, right? So think, well, I don't want to have a child maybe because then I can't travel and do all of the flights and go to places. And then other people are like, well, you don't need to put that off. Just you take them with you. So I'm like, okay, great. So when she was 2.5 months, we took her to Hawaii, right? And it's like, okay, she napped most of the time on the flight.
That was
Really,
pretty
really
easy.
not that difficult.
Mhm.
But then I was living into this idea that, oh, we just bring our child wherever we go, but we'd have the same experience we did when we didn't have a child. And it's just not the case. We're writing this new book and we were at a cafe without a child. We'd be at the cafe getting lattes, getting pastries, writing, chatting, laughing, talking with people. And we, for some reason, think that when we go there with her at 3 years old, it's going to be the same. But she's crawling under the table. She's crawling on my shoulders. She doesn't like the muffin. And we got to go in 6 minutes.
And we can
from
barely
arriving.
talk to each other. I don't know if you guys have gotten to this stage with your kiddos, but we can't get a sentence in without, no, talk to me. So we can't get full on conversations with each other when our daughter is
She said the other day, she said, no, mommy, you talk to me. And she said, daddy, you talk to yourself. I was like,
oh,
okay.
that's kind. That's so funny. I guess it's like kind of reassuring to know that even for people who are professionals in relationships, that the struggles are real for us all. Because yeah, I think it's totally true. Like kids change just about everything about your life, and your marriage is no exception. The experiences you have with your partner is no exception, because either there's another person there with you during that experience, or there are other considerations when they're not with you that you're bringing to the experience. So it's just a whole, yeah, I guess it is reassuring to know that it happens to everyone.
That's one of the biggest things we really try to get across in our content is you aren't alone. And because the majority of couples that we work with in like private coaching now tend to be parents just because of our brand and the fact that we became parents, so we tend to attract people with kids now. And they will talk to us and they'll be like, so much of our relationship changed after we had kids. Is there something wrong with us? Did we do something wrong? Are we not getting it right? And we just keep being like, no, there are so many changes that are natural, but also things that we can all do that make mistakes unintentionally that then have the relationship impact. So a lot of it's very natural and normal, and some of them are mistakes that we can unintentionally make. And so I just want everyone listening and throughout today's conversation to know you are not alone with challenges that come up.
Yep. Well, I was going to say, it does make me, now that I have kids, I have 2 kids, it makes me laugh like a hyena to think about people who are like, oh, like, let's have a baby to save our marriage. Or like, having a kid will make us closer. And I'm like, well, actually, how do you feel about navigating a relationship when you are sleep deprived and you have like 15,000 things on your mind at all times, and you're also responsible for another human? And also, like, in what world would that make your relationship easier to navigate? I wonder. Like, but
Yeah,
that's,
it
I feel
doesn't
like, what people
necessarily make it
think
easier.
sometimes.
There's like the initial bonding, right? Like the moment the baby comes into the world, you both are flooded with hormones, almost like falling in love together at the beginning of your relationship. And so when you meet the baby, you do have this moment of like pure ecstasy together. At least that was our experience. And so I think that's natural in the beginning. But very quickly, as you do fall into trying to find the new routine, and then the routine changes just about every 30 days because they're developing so fast. I see you nodding there. So the routine's changing, the needs, the demands, and so you actually have to adapt even faster as a couple in your marriage than you ever had to adapt before having kids, where you kind of just had a groove, you knew each other. There were little seasonal changes that happened, maybe career wise, but the amount of change that occurs after having kids is so rapid. And I think people forget that. But then also, people are not realizing how much your energy going towards kids, even whether they're in the newborn stage, but definitely now where she's like, our daughter's almost 4. So she's like a real human, right? Like we're teaching life skills, communication skills, like really seeing her becoming this real person and personality. There's so much energy devoted to raising our kids that we love that it's so easy to then put the relationship on the back burner. And I
Mm-hmm.
know we'll, really unpack a lot more of this specifically today, but what we really try to remind people is that your relationship, when it's strong, meaning you feel connected, you're communicating well, you're working through conflicts, we call those the 3 C's, that is such a gift to give to your kids. Like some people put their kids first and it's all about them, education wise, their needs, time with them, love. But don't forget, they are watching you,
Mm-hmm.
especially at a certain age that they reach. They are listening, they are watching, they are actually forming a mental model of what love and relationships, quote unquote, should look like. And so, just that's one thing it's a big part of what our upcoming book is about is when your relationship is thriving, that is a gift to your kids. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
about your direct relationship, you to your kids. The relationship between your partner and yourself is a benefit to them.
Totally. I want to pause because we kind of skipped over like Jocelyn and Aaron. How did you guys get into this? Because I mean, tell us a little bit about your background and then how we got into being in relationships and talking about relationships and coaching.
Yeah. Can I take this one real quick?
Yeah.
I love telling our story because we met. It was interesting because I think if we had met each other earlier, we would not have worked out. I had not done some work on myself. I had a lot of insecurities and fears that I kept kind of repeating the same cycles and relationships. And so I think, frankly, I would have sabotaged the relationship with my own patterns. And then I think there was a certain level of maturity and place he had gotten into his life where he was more ready for a relationship. However, he still had his
Only
fears.
from the standpoint of, I think, willing to look at myself and grow. It wasn't like I was ready. It was just my readiness to look at my own patterns and adjust behaviors
Mhm.
to meet the needs of another person. So I think that's a part of marriage too.
Mhm.
It really starts with like the willingness to consider the ongoing needs and how we have to adjust to meet those needs of each other and communicate, and conflict is going to come up. And so it wasn't like I had all those skills, but
Mhm.
when we got together, I was the most open to the idea that I would need them.
And that was the big thing I was asking him early in our relationship. What I had realized in relationships before him was it wasn't just about the surface level characteristics of smart, finding them attractive, have a certain level of career aspirations. Of course, those compatibilities are important, but what was missing in a lot of those relationships was the willingness to grow. So early on, I was like, hey, just so you know, self-development, working on ourselves, that's important to me. I want to just check that you're on board with that. You don't have to want to read the same books as me. You don't have to want to do therapy necessarily, but some form of growth is really, really important. And so to give a little bit of like the fast forward in our story, we realized very early on in our relationship that because of how different our upbringings were, like Aaron's family, I mean, his parents are still married 5 decades in, and they have much more of a traditional relationship. And in many ways, he witnessed a lot of stability and love and consistency. However, he didn't see any form of conflict or expressing feelings, literally never labeling a feeling ever, being able to
I mean,
talk about that.
my growing up was walking into the kitchen, seeing a one sentence exchange with my parents. I could feel that one of them was frustrated. The conversation stopped. Typically, my dad would walk out, and then like the next thing I knew, we were just in the yard playing, and we were doing some sort of activity. So, I mean, unbeknownst to me, any emotion, any tension was sort of bad, or at least meant to stop the conversation. You don't address it, you don't talk about it, you do something, and then you're just all good.
Right.
And so,
That's how he handled things.
what else am I going to bring into my own relationship except that was what was modeled to me?
I mean, it really is so much about what we're modeling and giving them an example of, because that's what becomes normalized.
Mhm.
That's what, like, so even the opposite for me, where I witnessed very unhealthy conflict and then turning into a tumultuous divorce. So what was normalized for me was yelling your feelings, slamming things. I didn't see any healthy exchange of communication. So it is about what's normalized. And then we can unconscious, it's not intentional. I'm not sitting there as a 20-year-old going, I'm going to repeat what my parents did.
Right.
It's so unconscious that we just start to often repeat what was shown to us, and not only repeat it in our own behaviors, but then accept in another partner too. And
Mhm.
so that was just, again, to kind of fast forward it, we
Hold on.
realized,
Let me
sure.
pick up from there. And it's not like we were that self-reflective when we were in our early stages. That's really just the entire worldview and context that we're both coming from at a subconscious level. So the conversation out here is she was like a little bit more committed than I was. And so I was like, oh, why don't we just move in together? And she said, well, I think I need a little bit more of a commitment than
Yeah.
that. And so I really considered that a lot of my history with relationships was also that I was broken up with. I was cheated on a few times, and there was only really a few relationships I was even in. And so I really didn't think I was going to get married. So I was even living into that story that because I've been so unsuccessful in relationships prior, that I'm trying to justify why that is, because I wasn't looking at necessarily my role, that maybe I'm not a valuable partner, though that was a fear. It was really about saying, okay, if this person is committed to me and sees a future, I want to make sure that I feel confident. This is a huge decision to get married,
Mhm.
but that I needed some more confidence. And that's really when we sought out skills and tools. And at the time, it's was really only available in preparing for marriage. And so we did that. But that did give me the confidence that, oh, there are skills and tools that I could learn, and all of our compatibility and the future we wanted to create, all that was aligned. But now it's like, oh, I could find some tools and we could get better. That gave me the confidence. And I think from there, just to round out the story, we didn't stop there. And so it wasn't like it was readily available. So we were seeking out different kinds of books and places where we could learn interpersonal skills. And we ended up, getting our master's degree in psychology. And then over the years, people were asking us about, oh, you seem to have some skills and tools or really have a great relationship. So we just started sharing them. Then it was like, well, we don't want to work separate jobs and spend, 60 hours a week away from each other. So
Started a business.
yeah, we kind of turned it into a business and
wrote
just
books, workshops. We've grown a big platform online, but this is over 10 years in the making. So I don't want people to think, oh, they were like an overnight success. You have 1 million followers now. No, we were making content when we had 500 people watching us.
Right. And I think the other part of that story that's striking to me is, to your point around like, look at us now versus when we started. Honestly, your relationship started the same way that most relationships start, which is you're trying to figure out whether you're gonna like work together, work as a couple, no matter what happens, is kind of the thing. Like you guys came in with your own backgrounds, and maybe at some point you started aligning on whether you wanted kids, like whether you wanted to get married, all these things. Like it's very normal. And people think, they look at couples or they look at other parents who seem to just be so happy or to have it all together, et cetera. And a lot of work goes into that, I think, is the takeaway. Like a lot of work.
It really is about looking at, in a marriage, what's effective and what's not effective. And what's not effective is me living out my old past subconscious patterns of reactivity. So if we were to boil it all the way down, a couple could really just start to look at, well, where does reactivity show up in our life? Where am I reactive on the outside? Let's find the right tool. If you go deeper, it's really about looking at your internal. Why am I internally reactive? Why do these emotions come up at a partner's tone or a subject or the way they ask me to put the dishes away? So it all starts with these outward things that internally trigger this emotion, which is coming from our past and meaning that we give things and our perceptions that are altered from things that aren't repaired. And so when you really just start to get interested in, well, I have reactivity and so do you. Is that effective for our fulfillment and connection? Yes or no? If not, let's find something that is. Then you bring a child in and it's like, well, some of the impatience and the big feelings trigger things in you that you didn't even know were there before. Yeah. And now that comes out with your partner. And so now you have the layer of reactivity with a child, and then it's towards your partner. And then we realize if we're not good at co-regulating ourselves, our children only learn co-regulation through us helping them. They don't know how to do that. And so that was one of the things that I finally got, I think, when we had our child too. Thank goodness I can regulate my own emotions, co-regulate with my partner, because we are the sole place that our child learns to co-regulate. And how many of us could say, well, I didn't learn that, or my parents didn't model that. No, they didn't. That's why we have this reactivity show up in our marriage right now. So anyway, a lot to say, but it really comes down to that willingness to kind of evaluate what's effective, what's not effective, and then find the tools and skills, make the adjustments, turn them into new behaviors, and it's just never ending. You always do that.
Yeah, there's no perfection, right? You never reach being a perfect human. It just doesn't happen. And if you do, maybe there's another issue we need to address. But this leads me to a next question, because when you become a parent, one thing that I think we all forget is that parents are on the same team, right? Like you are a team against your kid.
Versus.
No, but I mean, sometimes like I know it's something that I say to my husband before, like we go to the airport, right? Yes. Same team, right? Like, and I want to talk a little bit more about how to get your partner on the same team. And also, Aaron, you are the first male on this podcast. Oh, so I would love to also hear a couple of like skills, tools, tricks to like get your partner on board for a teamwork mentality or like a reflective mentality when it comes to these harder moments, right? Of co-regulation or dealing with whining.
So, yeah. Oh, I get it. By the way, did we tell you that's the name of our upcoming book?
What?
Same team.
Oh,
is it?
I was like, whining? Really?
The fact,
Why?
no, not whining. No, the fact that you said same team, like we just announced it. Actually, we haven't even told our audience publicly, but on our web class we just got a book deal with Penguin Random House, and it is called Same Team.
No way. Well,
That's so
congratulations.
funny.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
But also same team.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like it's a year out, so everyone following, like, I wish you could go pre-order right now, but it's a little bit of time, but just know that's coming. Because what you just said is everything, right? Of course, there are the tips, tricks, ABCs. Everyone wants a communication hack. Give me a script. And of course, those things can be helpful, but you won't be able to implement it if you forget that you're on the same team. Like, so that mindset that you're describing is truly what we see is the biggest difference between what makes or breaks marriages. Because you are going to face adversity. Whether it's financial challenges, career. I mean, we've seen couples, one person gets fired and they're devastated. It was a huge part of their identity. Maybe a family member becomes ill. Your children, of course, there's really challenging parts. Even though we love our kids so much, there's parts, including the whining, that can feel really frustrating. And here's what we know. When, a stressful situation's happening, like we will hear couples depict getting ready for school. They're trying to kids are trying to get ready. You're trying to get ready to get out the door for work. You both have jobs. You both have a lot to do. It feels like crunch time. And what creates even more stress and confusion for everyone is when you two start to turn on each other. And if you could remember this phrase, this is a sneak peek of our book. One of our pieces of content is this phrase: de-escalate now, debrief later. What does that mean? Instead of trying to solve the problem while you're already dysregulated, you're already stressed, you're rushed, your kids are dysregulated, they're having a meltdown, you don't like the way your partner said something to the kid. So then couples will try to solve the problem in that moment. It only has you guys spiral more. Don't tell me what to do. I'm an adult too. I'm a parent. Don't tell me how to parent. And you start snapping at each other and you walk away feeling disconnected. And you're like, what the heck? Like, parenting is already hard enough. You don't want to feel like you're not on the same page with your partner. And so if you can remember, all right, our job in any moment is to de-escalate. If the kids are having a hard time, it's not the time to coach your partner on how they parent and how they talk to their kid or to your kid. Of course, within reason. We're not saying if anything unreasonable was happening, but de-escalate. Then later on the way home from work, hey babe, how are you? How's your day? Talk. Hey, can we debrief the mornings? It feels like the mornings are so chaotic, and I want us all to feel like it's super peaceful and we're united. How do you think we could improve? That's a very unifying conversation. It's not going to feel like you're punishing each other, like you're talking down to each other, like you're on opposing teams. And for anyone who's listening and they're thinking, okay, but what do I say to my husband? How do we get him more on board with having these debriefs? Use the sports analogy. Any sports team, they play the game and then they come back later and watch footage, or they talk about the game. That same thing can occur in a marriage. Hey, we ran our plays, we had our morning, that was the game. Some things worked.
Did we win? Did we lose?
Yeah. Then later on, debrief. Hey, let's talk about how can we be even better as a team, and using that kind of language. How can we? What would help moving forward? What do you think would help us all feel more at peace and united? Very unifying language, as opposed to anything that's you this, you that, I don't like, this isn't like, that's going to, of course, feel like your opponents. So really think about the unifying language. But if you can remember any phrase from this, de-escalate now, debrief later. Game changer.
No, I just keep what I'm thinking about as you're telling that story is that I find, and this can be an overgeneralization, that like moms tend to do a lot of the research around kids, right? Like I'm the one following all the parenting social media accounts. I'm the one reading the books. So it feels a lot at the time that like I'm telling him what to do, right? And I can understand how, I know this is personal, but I understand how my husband could get his back up, because it's like you said, like, stop telling me what to do. Like, I'm a parent, I'm an adult, I get it. And it's like, I'm wondering how to like get him interested in being as curious about parenting and like the psychology because honestly, once you get a toddler, you have to be a mini psychologist.
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
this
that's
is
true.
this is no longer a is she hungry or is she not? Does she have a dirty diaper?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because those are very much like survival skills, which I
Yes.
find that like husband fantastic at. He's great at playing with
Keeps
the
the
kids.
kid alive. That's
We're all
fantastic.
alive. We're all good.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to like these deeper things, like the
I
curiosity
agree.
has kind of ended.
I agree, Christina, and I want to add to that because I think that's a very valid observation. And it becomes a vicious cycle because then I feel like I know best because, frankly, like, again, I'm the one who's been reading the books. I'm the one who's talking to all my friends about their experiences. I'm the one who's, watching the videos, all these things. So, like, you you know what should happen and you feel pretty strongly about what should happen, and so, like, it becomes a cycle because then, like, your partner's like, stop telling me what to do, or it's always your way, or and then my response would be like, well, because I know best, because I just do, because of all these reasons, and it becomes this like sort of cycle where, and that's, you've totally lost the plot of being on the same team because, like, you feel like you're on uneven ground at that point. Like, I've done all of this work and I feel strongly that this path forward is right, and like, what do we do at that point? We're not on the same team in those conversations.
Think about what I just said a few minutes ago. Don't try to coach or have that kind of big conversation in the heat of the moment, which is what a lot of women do. I see in our sessions is they try to teach their partner better parenting stuff in the moment. And that's going to have them feel controlled. It's going to have them feel like a lot of men will say, I feel they actually don't respect me as much because of how you talk to me in front of the kids. And so they really can feel that as well. And so, all right, we're going to de-escalate. That's my main goal in those moments.
Can I add one piece?
Then,
Because this is going to be
sure.
short. Because this is a good point. If a husband is going to take on trying some new action with the child, whether it's around co-regulating, I sort of need to ask you, hey, let me try this out. Like, let me fail. And exactly what you're saying, the jumping in and saying, oh, you tried it for 20 seconds, now I'm taking over, is just going to have me feel a little bit more resentful, and subconsciously, or maybe consciously too, fine, you do it then, right? So now it's
Yeah.
back on the wife or the mother's role. Okay, fine, you're not going to let me do it. You're not going to let me try things out. You're not going to let me fail. Go ahead then, fine, right? So now I'm just back in the passive role.
So then, all right, I'm not going to do it in the heat of the moment. I'm going to debrief. I find that we can have our partner open up more when we start with questions. Like really open, inviting questions. Hey, I know the kids have been in somewhat of a tough stage lately. There's been a lot of big feelings. How are you feeling with parenting lately? Like you're just trying to connect with them and hear what their experience really is, give them a chance to share. That can just open up this really great space between the two of you.
Then I
Then,
would say add the shared positive intent. Hey, I know we both are really trying to have our daughter be kind and respectful. Uh, I know we saw this week that it was around sharing, and I know you really were trying to help with that new skill that you learned. You're basically just trying to say we're on the same team. We have the same end goal in mind. And hey, since this is something that you were researching and you're taking a lead on, how do you think those steps went? How could I help you out better in the future with those?
Yeah.
Is there any role you want me to play?
And I think all of that, and then just really being able to share your positive intention for the couple. Like, what do we want to do? How do we want to show up as a united front in these moments? And then you can, of course, make a request at the end. Hey, I know you've got a lot on your plate. We're both so busy. I just want us to both be invested in learning about parenting. I know you might not be searching on social media like I am, because I think that's an expectation that maybe isn't fair. Like, men do research differently than women do. We also we can have our minds on 10 different things at once, whereas men are very focused, right? Like, if they're working, they're working. If they're cooking,
Yep.
they're cooking. And so
Yep.
I think somewhat we also have to just look at our expectation of our partner. And what I'll hear men say sometimes is like, hey, I might not go out and do the research, but I can promise you, if you send me videos, I'll watch them.
That's exactly, it's so weird you just said that,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what I was just thinking about when you were saying that. Is I am a like very visual, I love to read. I'm on social media. I have a million friends that are all moms. But I had this conversation with my husband probably last year or the year before, because our son was going through like just the toddler years, like we were in it. And I realized, like, well, how does he spend his time? Like, he watches a ton of videos on YouTube, like about anything he's interested in, carpentry, sports, whatever. And so I'm like, oh, maybe if I like send it, like not bombard him with videos every single day, but if it's like I saw this video on Instagram, and like they have a podcast, or they have a, whatever, they have a video on YouTube. If I send that to him, I know he'll watch it. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. It's like the expectations of how I ingest information or what I encounter in my day-to-day interactions is so different from his, and we're different humans. But finding ways to like share the experience with him, even if we're not watching the video together, but that we're both ingesting that information, and then can maybe talk about it at a later point when it feels right.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like I have to approach it.
Totally. I think there are some great like dad accounts out there. And it's common that dads take that role around like gross and fine motor skill development. That's kind of like what sports does, and being physical. And a huge part of parenting is getting the foot in the door and spending time with the child. And so maybe for other girl dads like myself, although I do like just spending time with her, laying in a playroom while she plays with dolls, right, might not be the favorite thing for the dad. So make something in the backyard, make something in the basement that's really interesting, that, yes, is around the motor skill development, but the more time you have with them, the more conversation you get into, the more they just like being around you. And then your algorithm will show you probably other things where after you do that challenge course and you sit down in the grass, it happened to me today. I went to Donuts with Dad at our daughter's school, and she just came in, like, wanted to sit on my lap, and she just was talking to me, right? And in those moments, I can have conversations with her about other things. And obviously, it needs to be developmentally appropriate. So whether I talk to her about her friendships or like some of the feelings that she's having at school, I think that gets you in the door. So again, if it starts with interesting things around, motor skill development, then it puts you more time with them. The more time you have, the more they like being around you. The more they're around you, the more you can see and develop a relationship with them.
Yeah. What I'm taking from all of this is like curiosity is such an important part. Whether it's like your partner being curious about, me being curious about why my husband wants to do something, or what he thought, or how he's feeling, or, us getting curious about our child. Do you know what I mean? I feel like the answer always comes in being curious as opposed to accusatory.
For sure. Oh yeah. Starting with questions that you're genuinely interested in. It's not like a leading question, is always going to open up a more connecting conversation than starting with some coaching and, just like getting right into you need to do this, or this needs to be better. Because connection first. Like that needs to be the priority in the relationship, is not being right and not even getting to the logical solution. Like, which is what so many people push for, because I know it feels like you have hardly any time to talk. So you're like, we have to have this conversation fast. So let's get right to the nitty gritty. But it's like, if you don't have that connection first, you're not going to be very receptive to each other.
Yep. You said something that like is a segue to something I wanted to ask about. You said earlier, you were talking about the 3 C's. So you talked about connection, I think conflict, and communication. Can you talk a little bit more about those? Because I was going to ask a question around how you actually prioritize connection. Like you were saying, in this crazy, like you have literally 2 hours of time with your partner awake per day or whatever. So I wanted to ask about, like, sort of in an actionable way, what do those 3 C's look like? Why are they important? Like, talk to us a little bit about those.
So with connection, on a day-to-day basis, you can focus on 2 things. One, what we call just like quick check-ins. And these aren't, hey, did you pick up milk? hey, what time do they need to be at the dentist? Those are logistical conversations. They're a part of life. We're not going to ever get rid of them. We're talking about a check-in, which is like, how are you? How are you really? Or, hey, I know you had a big project at work. How's that going? Hey, I know that you were struggling with something with a family member. How's that been going? Anything, like checking in on them and the things that are important to them, things that are going on in their lives, and vice versa. Because again, that's about emotional connection. You won't feel emotionally connected with each other if you're only talking about logistics.
Yep.
So that's a big piece, those daily check-ins. And then the other thing you can focus on daily are the love deposits. So for some of you who listen to us, maybe our podcast, things like that, we talk about this love account idea. It's like a bank account. With a bank account, you make both deposits and you make withdrawals. In the beginning of a relationship, you're making a lot of deposits. All those little things that just show, oh, you're special to me. I'm excited to see you. You're listening, you're touching them, you're doing sweet things for them. The longer you're together, and then definitely after having kids, because you're focused on so many other things, you not only start to make less deposits unintentionally, but you also start to make more withdrawals. Those are those little remarks, those are little corrections, or it could be big things like an argument with each other. Something gets more heated. You don't respond to them in a kind way. All of those, big or small, they really start to deplete the love account. Suddenly you're like, why do things feel so tense between us? Why is there so much friction in these just basic conversations? It's very likely because your love account is low. So those
And when
two
your
things
love account
daily,
is low,
yeah.
you have less tolerance for each other and you just become more reactive. And the thing that you need to do when your love account is low is make more deposits, but the lower it gets, the lower your willingness is to do that.
Yeah.
So as simple as a principle it is, it's so powerful to really think about where your love account is at, because it's not really about the situation. Situations are very relative to where your love account is. Jocelyn can make the same comment in the same tone of voice. If my love account is at a 9, I might even laugh at it. Like, it actually comes across as humorous.
Or you might not notice it. It might just roll off your back.
Yeah. Same comment, same situation, same tone of voice. Another week when my love account's at a 3, I'm going to take it very personally. I'm going to react back. It's going to escalate us into the conflict cycle, and then it just does more withdrawal, and we just go further down.
How do you break the cycle? Like, you just have to consciously be like, we are not at our best right now. Like, what's happening? Look at yourself. Am I being super judgmental? Am I being critical? Have I even asked how their day was in a couple of days? Have we hugged in the past week? Like,
Yeah.
for me, that would be the first step, is just to be like, wait, when is the last time that like we actually kissed? Hard to remember because we've seen each other. Again, it's like your ships in the night and all these things. So you break the cycle what? By just like deciding to and doing something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that moment of realizing, okay, this isn't personal to us. We've gotten into this dynamic, as many couples do, where we're making more of these withdrawals, not enough deposits. Okay, we can reset right now. And so yes, I'm going to make more deposits and little things. You're in the kitchen, touch each other's back. We know the kids are around. We know you don't get hours alone together. Most parents don't. Just touch each other as you're walking by. Even if you only get partial conversations with each other, still show you're trying to connect. You're trying to ask those meaningful questions. And then when you can do the bigger things, like plan a cool experience for each other, or say, hey, let's go get trail bikes, as a way to show I want to connect with you. Those are those bigger moments. They aren't necessarily happening on a daily basis, but just think about, every single day, what are some deposits I can make? And then definitely let me minimize how many withdrawals I make. And we would say, if you ask each other every single week, whether you're doing it over coffee, you're running air, wherever you are, just say, hey, where's your love account at on a scale of 0 to 10? Asking that question preventatively helps you, before you get to a 2, realize you're at a 6 and be like, oh, okay, all right, I'm going to be more aware then. And you can ask each other, hey, what are the withdrawals I've been making from you? Because sometimes you don't even realize it because you're just going so fast. So that's a great question to ask each other on a weekly basis.
And we have a we have such a great guide, simple PDF guide that we've had tens of thousands of people get, called the Family Meeting Guide, which you mentioned. But that with a repair guide, anyone can go to meetthefreemans.com/links, and all of our guides, and they're so easily accessible. There's the preventative communication, and then I'd be remiss to say, when love accounts are lower and you are more reactive and we do get into conflict cycles, those are moments that do need some repair. And some can be more significant, lengthy conversations, some can be short, but you do need to come back, ask those questions in the guide about the love account. But you also really need to address, hey, I know we both got pretty stressed and our love accounts got lower. Do you feel like there's anything we should really repair? And, depending on where you're at, no, I feel like we can just move on. We did a good job of bouncing back. Or, you know what, there is something that's actually lingering, that's kind of in the way of blocking me in our connection and my willingness to be able to just keep moving forward. So there is something I need to have a repair conversation around. And so making sure that you do that, because I think a lot of couples are good at, there's a disruption and then we can just move forward back into the function. But if you don't just address some of the things that really need to, they're just landmines that turn into triggers. Those triggers turn into more conflict cycles. You do more damage. Then you really start to deplete your connection.
How much of like this repair, I know some of that needs to happen in private, like you need time to focus on each other, etc. But isn't there also like a benefit to doing some of that initial repair conversation in front of your children? Like how much of that like repair in front of your kids helps them understand that like mistakes happen and you can fix them?
Some of our most viral and shared posts are exactly those kind of sliders where it's like things to say to your spouse in front of your kids if you want them to know what healthy communication looks like and things like that. So, of course, you don't want to solve deeper relationship problems in front of them, right? Like you're not going to hash out like these deeper rooted feelings you're having. That is something to do in private because their brains are not going to really be able to discern, is this really, really bad or is this normal? They can really feel fear sometimes and internalize those things. But definitely if they witness an interaction where you do snap at your partner or you get a little frustrated with each other, definitely show that repair in front of them. Acknowledge the tone because that teaches them taking responsibility. It teaches them being self-aware. It teaches them that it's okay to say, I'm sorry. And that doesn't mean something's wrong with you.
And make mistakes.
And so definitely if they see that friction, tension, even an argument starting to brew, 100% you need to show them the repair. And in fact, it can be more detrimental if they see that and they don't see repair. Because the opposite is also true. They won't know that it's okay to apologize. They don't know how to correct those things. So all those life skills, they're going to learn by watching you and watch you be an imperfect person, but someone who's just willing to own up to those mistakes as opposed to like double down or just think, I don't need to apologize for snapping at you. It's like they're going to think, okay, then it's okay for me to snap at people and I don't need to apologize.
Fair. One thing that we ask everyone is, we're called What I Wish I Knew. So I would love to hear from both of you about what you wish you knew about parenting before you had your daughter.
Gosh, like Aaron said, there's a lot of things.
The first thing, in the early days, and I mean, we've all now heard that phrase that the days are long and the years are short?
Yes.
Yeah.
That so much changes so fast in the beginning. It's the developmental leaps they go through in the beginning can be 1 month, 3 months. And though it's funny, I recount around 4 months, when we were really trying to get sleep dialed in, and then there's that little sleep regression, like those 4 or 5 days, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're back and she's not sleeping. That feels long, like those nights, but it's so short. And so, especially for younger kids, the developmental leaps, actually, it's just important to know that there are developmental leaps. It's not this surprise behavioral thing, like, why am I getting these big emotions? There's just such a great app out there that tells you what the timeline is for specific development. And I swear
It was so
we
long.
were in like a day and we were like, what is happening? And then Jocelyn's like, wait a second, opens the app and it's to the day that, oh, she's going through a developmental leap.
Mhm.
There's just really something nurturing
Just
or
helpful about that,
helpful,
yeah.
a relief to know, oh, like this is expected, this is supposed to be happening. So
Mhm.
I just think I wish I knew about the leaps and how fast things changes.
Mine's gonna be way different. I'm going a different angle. I wish I knew that having a child, and particularly for me, having a daughter, was going to resurface old wounds in my relationship with my mom. And just
Mhm.
how much that was going to be brought up in ways I could not have anticipated. For example, if I felt reactive and I knew I was making a face, I would literally be like, "Oh my God, I remember when my mom made that face and it was
Mhm.
so scary." And then I would kind of be like, "Oh my God," and make myself feel bad, as opposed to, okay, this is a moment I get to choose to do it differently. And so just really that very raw and real deeper work that we do as parents. And yeah, that it's okay if it brings up old stuff from your parents and your relationship to them. And that's just things that we get to work on, reflect on, and it's going to show up in your relationship too. So I think that it's just, you don't even know that's going to happen. And it, in my experience, does.
Could I add one more?
Sure.
Lastly, and I was going back to what you were saying too, anything worth doing in life is because it's both challenging and rewarding. There's
Hmm.
nothing you can pursue. If you wanted to be a professional athlete, a famous person, a giant in business, you know that that path is going to be challenging because you are not the person yet that would realize that future. We don't put that into perspective in terms of marriage and parenting.
Mhm.
Is being a parent awesome and there's so much love and watching a kid develop 100%? Is it also challenging? Yes, it's challenging. Is
Mhm.
it going to create different dynamics in your marriage? Yes. Is that going to be challenging? Yes. By working through that, does it become rewarding and strengthening your bond? Yes. So most people say simply that it's both, right?
Mhm.
Is having a kid great? Is being married great? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. That's why it's something rewarding to do with your life.
Mhm. That also dispels the rumor that you can have like a happy relationship without the challenge, without putting in the work, that, or even kids, Christine and I talk all the time about comparison and how you look at someone else's life and you don't see the work that they may have been doing or are still doing. You just see them sitting at the table having a happy family meal, or you
Mhm.
see, pictures of someone out on a date night looking very in love. And maybe there are periods of someone's life where the relationship is not a lot of work and you
Mhm.
just fall into a nice groove where you're really caring for each other and you're listening to each other, and that's great. There will also be times where that's not true. And
Mhm.
if we ever pretend like those seasons don't exist, we're doing ourselves a disservice, we're doing everyone a disservice, because that work is where all of the growth happens for parenting and for relationships. But people think like, when it's just true love, it's X, Y, and Z. And it's like, maybe sometimes it might feel that way, but it's very normal for it not to feel that way too.
Yeah. And my closing note would be, marriage is a package deal. You get the happy, you also get the hard. But like Erin said, it makes it more rewarding. And that is totally normal, part of the package. You're not alone.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, we want to get y'all off on your day date and off to, biking. So can you let everybody know where to find you, follow you? And we already got the links, so we'll make sure we link that in the description, but let
Yeah.
everybody know where they can find you.
So our Instagram handle as well as our website is Meet the Freemans. So you've met the Freemans. Now you can meet the Freemans, the resources. We've got a podcast there. We just did a web class that you can actually watch the replay for a while. That's a 1 hour training. We've got our previous books. You can also stay tuned in for our upcoming book. That's what we're really excited about next year. So everything's there. Our workshops, everything, meet the Freemans Instagram and website.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Jocelyn and Aaron. We appreciate your time and your insights. Be safe biking.
Yes.
We need to go to the hospital today.
Thank
Watch
you.
out for snakes.
Yes, we will.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. So good to
Thank
connect
you.
with you.
If you found something helpful, insightful, or just plain reassuring in this episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you have a moment, leaving a quick review helps more parents find us.
We're also always looking for great guests, so if you know someone or that someone is you, please reach out. You can find us at whatiwishiknew_ or whatiwishiknew.life.
Thanks for listening. And until next time, stay sane, stay calm, or at least fake it until bedtime.